Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane, where the takes have no lies, no bias, but most importantly, no shame. It's a great week. It is a great week. It's a great week to be an Eagles fan, and I'm I've been sitting on my phone, this week, and it's been a lot of people that have been quiet over this past week. It was. I feel like it was real. I feel like it was real loud and real busy last week. A lot of people had a lot of things to say last week. This week it's been crickets. It's been pretty peaceful this week. I haven't had to have a lot of exchanges with people on social media this week. It's been really quiet this week. It's been really quiet this week, and the fact that it's been so quiet this week is crazy to me because the haters will be loud after a bad game, but after a good game, all that energy disappears. It's crazy to me. Like, Jalen Hurts, bro. Jalen Hurts needs his respect. Jalen Hurts deserves more respect from just the football community as a whole after what we saw in this past game. Jalen Hurts, I mean, if there's one thing Jalen Hurts is going to do other than win games, it's silence the haters. Jalen Hurts is going to silence the haters every single time that group has something to say. Haters had a lot to say last week after that blowout loss to the Giants. After that poor performance from Jalen Hurts and really the team as a whole against the Giants. Haters had a lot to say for the 10 days leading up 10 days leading up to this game. Had a lot to say leading up to this game against the Vikings. But it's quiet now. It's quiet now. And that's honestly one of Jalen Hurts' biggest skills. Is that he never ceases to silence the haters every time there's doubt looming. Like, Jalen Hurts is always going to have the last laugh. He's always going to have the last laugh. But it was really loud last week. It's crazy to me how it was really loud last week after the poor performance that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles had against the Giants. But this week, it's all quiet on the Western Front after this game against the Vikings. After this game against the Vikings, I mean, you can hear a pin hit the floor. I mean, like, it's really quiet. And this was after a week after. I mean, last week, haters were saying, "Oh, Jalen Hurts is overrated. Jalen Hurts is a running back. Jalen Hurts can't win games with his arm. Jalen Hurts only wins games because of Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts is the problem of the offense." Haters were saying all that a week ago. But this week, there's no one saying any of that now. This week, haters have absolutely nothing to say after this performance Jalen Hurts had against the Vikings. And that's honestly something, one of the things Jalen Hurts does best is silence the haters, silence the doubters. That's one of his best skills. Like, Jalen Hurts had an absolutely perfect game. He was perfect. My quarterback is perfect. 326 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, a 158 passer rating, the absolute best passer rating a quarterback can have. Jalen Hurts was perfect. Not only was he perfect, he was the first quarterback to be perfect this season. He was the first quarterback to be perfect all season. On top of being the first quarterback to be perfect all season, he's also the only active quarterback to throw for 325 or more passing yards on less than 25 attempts in one game. In one game. The guy who people said can't throw, the guy who people said can't win games through the air, the guy who people said can't dominate a game through the air and at high volumes, like the Josh Allens, like the Joe Burrows, like the Patrick Mahomes, like the Lamar Jacksons. The guy who people said couldn't move the ball through the air at that rate is the only active quarterback on the season so far to throw for 325 plus yards on 25 or less attempts. No other quarterback has done that this season. It's crazy how the guy who people said couldn't do those things did exactly what the doubters said he couldn't do in a monster win against a good Vikings team, against a good defense. It's crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. Jalen Hurts was absolutely perfect against the Vikings. Not only was he perfect, he was the first quarterback to be perfect and was the only active quarterback to be perfect in the way he was perfect. Like, it's not like Jalen Hurts had a 158 passer rating just throwing checkdowns and just playing conservative ball. Jalen Hurts was a playmaker. Jalen Hurts was putting numbers on the board through his arm. Not through his legs, not through any rushing touchdowns, not through the tush push. Jalen Hurts was a dynamic quarterback through his arm. Jalen Hurts was the first quarterback to be perfect this season. There's only, and it's honestly funny because when you look at the landscape of the NFL right now, all the talented quarterbacks we have in the NFL, all of the supposedly quote unquote elite quarterbacks we have in the NFL right now, there's only one guy who has been perfect. There was only one guy who has an absolutely perfect game this season. It wasn't Patrick Mahomes, not the greatest quarterback of this generation. It wasn't the two-time MVP in Lamar Jackson. It wasn't the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. It wasn't the guy who everyone thinks is an elite, who you guys say is an elite quarterback in Justin Herbert. It wasn't the MVP candidates in Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott. No. It wasn't any of those guys. It was Jalen Hurts. It was who you guys label as a game manager. It was who you guys said is not capable of winning games through the air. It was that guy. The one guy who was perfect. The one guy who has a perfect game this season was not your favorite quarterback. It was my favorite quarterback. The one guy who was perfect on the season was not the MVP, was not the MVP guy. It was not the multi Pro Bowl guy. It wasn't the guy that it wasn't the guys who are top 5 in the MVP race every year. No. It was the guy who just simply wins games. It was the guy who is a Super Bowl winner. It was the guy who is a Super Bowl MVP. It was the guy who is a All-Pro. It was the guy who has put up historic numbers and historic records and has accomplished historic milestones in the postseason and the Super Bowl. That's the guy who has been perfect so far this season. The only guy in the NFL. Like, if you look at Jalen Hurts continues to separate himself from the pack. He continues to separate himself from the pack. Jalen Hurts this year is the only quarterback to have a completely perfect game. But not only is he the only quarterback this season to have a absolutely perfect game, Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback since 2009 to have an absolutely perfect game. Jalen Hurts is the first quarterback to have a perfect passer rating with high volumes through the air, with that level of production, since Drew Brees in 2009. No other quarterback has had this good of a game in the regular season, this efficient of a game in the regular season, like what Jalen Hurts had against the Vikings. Not Peyton Manning, not Cam Newton, not Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, Josh, not even Tom Brady. Not even Tom Brady. Not Ben Roethlisberger, not Phillip Rivers, not Eli Manning. Not even Tom Brady has had this efficient of a game since 2009. Like what we saw Jalen Hurts put together against the Vikings. Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback in the past 2 decades to be this efficient and dominant through the air. That's no other quarterback. Like what? No other quarterback, no other elite quarterback, no other supposed elite quarterbacks can say that. It's crazy. But like the thing is, again, Jalen Hurts is going to get the hate regardless of what he does. Whether this man is simply winning games and playing conservative football, or whether this man is winning games and is absolutely perfect. This man can be perfect and still not get the respect that he deserves from the NFL community. From those who know ball, from those who watch ball, from those who love ball, from those who play ball, from those who coach ball. Jalen Hurts is still not going to get the respect he deserves, regardless of what he does. So at this point, it honestly doesn't even matter because nothing Jalen Hurts does on the field will ever get him that respect that he rightfully deserves. Even though he's a Super Bowl, even though he's a champion, even though he's a Super Bowl MVP, even though he is one of the only quarterbacks since the 1990s to be a Super Bowl MVP and earn all pros in the same exact year. No matter what Jalen Hurts does, he's never going to get the respect that he deserves. He's never going to get the respect that he deserves. And honestly, this game from Jalen Hurts' performance against the Vikings, it honestly makes him an all-time quarterback already. Jalen Hurts is a Hall of Famer already. He is the only quarterback since 2009 to have an absolutely perfect season. He is the only active QB right now to throw for 325 plus yards with less than 25 attempts. No other quarterback can say that they had that type of game since 2009. No other Hall of Fame quarterback can say that. No other quarterback who has won a Super Bowl can say that. Patrick Mahomes can't say that. Ben Roethlisberger can't say that. Peyton Manning can't say that. Cam Newton definitely can't say that. But Tom Brady can't even say that. The greatest quarterback of all time, 7-time champion, cannot say that he has played as good of a game, as dominant of a game, as efficient of a game, has been as accurate in a game as Jalen Hurts. As what Jalen Hurts was able to do against the Vikings. As Jalen Hurts was able to play against the Vikings. No other quarterback can say that they have done what Jalen Hurts has done. Jalen Hurts is an all-timer. He's an all-timer. And honestly, looking at this game, there is no reason why Jalen Hurts should not be an MVP candidate right now. There's no reason why he should not be an MVP candidate right now. If you look at Jalen Hurts compared to other guys in the NFL, guys who are favorites to win MVP so far this season, Jalen Hurts right now is tied for the best record in the NFC. He has only 1 turnover on the year, which is less than any of the other favorites, of the actual favorites to win MVP that are in the race so far. He's top 10 in passing yards. He's tied for 6th in passing touchdowns. He's 4th overall in rushing touchdowns. And he's the only quarterback to have a perfect game this season and in the past 2 decades. There is no reason Jalen Hurts should not be an MVP candidate right now. There is no reason Jalen Hurts, honestly, should not be a top 3 favorite, a favorite to win MVP right now. There's no reason why. Jalen Hurts is taking better care of the football more consistently. He's winning more games. He's playing at a higher level for the most part. And he continues to overcome the odds. He continues to prove the doubters wrong. Jalen Hurts for MVP 100%. 100%. Like, I'm honestly, like, I look at Jalen Hurts, bro, and I honestly have to ask myself, like, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do? Like, what, honestly, like, this is an honest question. Like, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do for him to have that unanimous majority label of elite in the NFL? Like, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do to be seen as on the level, at the level of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson? Like, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do to be seen at that level among the entire league? Like, among the landscape of football fans, football enthusiasts, like lovers of the game, spectators, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do in order to gain that respect as an elite, an inarguable elite quarterback in the NFL? Like, from the people who continue to doubt Jalen Hurts, what more does he have to do? It's a genuine question. Like, I have to continue asking myself that question. What more does Jalen Hurts have to do? Jalen Hurts has the highest winning percentage of any quarterback since 2022. He's one of 2 current quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl MVP and earn All-Pro honors. He's one of 2 quarterbacks all time in Super Bowl history to lead 2 offenses to 35 plus points twice. He's done it 2 times. He has the second most comeback wins when trailing by double digits since 2020. He's near 100. He has a near 100% success rate in the red zone. He's nearly perfect in the red zone. And he's the only quarterback since 2009 to have a perfect game. What more does Jalen Hurts have to do for you all to finally recognize him as an elite quarterback, as a premier quarterback in the NFL? Not a game manager, not an all-star, not a good quarterback. What more does Jalen Hurts have to do for you all to recognize him as a great quarterback, one of the best elite, greatest quarterbacks in the NFL right now? I don't know what else he can do. I have no idea what else he can do. Like, if winning a Super Bowl is not enough, if winning a Super Bowl MVP is not enough, if putting up all-time numbers in the postseason and the Super Bowl is not enough, if being perfect in the red zone is not enough, if being perfect for an entire game is not enough, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do? Like, what more does Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts honestly has nothing else to prove. He has nothing else to prove, especially in regards to the other quarterbacks in the NFL. There is nothing that Jalen Hurts has to prove to anyone in regards to his play, his caliber in the NFL anymore. There is no other quarterback in the NFL that can say they have accomplished the things that Jalen Hurts has. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow can't say they've won a Super Bowl. Those guys can't say they've been to 2 Super Bowls in 2 years. Those guys can't say they've won Super Bowl MVP and have earned All-Pro honors in the same year. Joe Burrow hasn't even earned one All-Pro honor yet, standing by itself. Patrick Mahomes can't say that he was perfect for an entire game and won the game. Like, no other quarterback in the NFL can say they have accomplished what Jalen Hurts has accomplished during his time in the NFL. And in honestly less time. Jalen Hurts has been in the league for less years than Patrick Mahomes, for less years than Josh Allen, for less years than Lamar Jackson, and has still accomplished more than two of those guys, and has really accomplished things at the level of Patrick Mahomes in less years. Like, there's nothing people can say about Jalen Hurts anymore in regards to things he has to prove in the NFL for him to earn that elite status, for him to earn that top dog, that premier status. Jalen Hurts has nothing else to prove in the NFL. He has nothing else to prove because your favorite quarterback hasn't accomplished half of what Jalen Hurts has been able to accomplish. It's crazy to me. But someone else who also I think deserves flowers from this game is A.J. Brown. Honestly, looking at Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the Eagles' passing game is back. Or at least it's on its way back. Like, this was a step in the right direction for sure. Man. This was a step in the right direction. The play calling still has work to do for sure. Kevin Patullo still has work to do. Kevin Patullo is not out of the hot seat just because we got to win, just because, we looked good through the air for the first time all season. Kevin Patullo still has work to do. And honestly, he has to go a long way before I'm ready to say Kevin Patullo is the play caller that can help us win another Super Bowl. Even though we beat the Vikings the way we beat the Vikings, I'm still not 100% certain, and I'm not ready to say Kevin Patullo is the guy. Regardless of how good the passing game looked, regardless of how good Jalen Hurts looked, regardless of how good A.J. Brown looked, Devontae Smith looked, I am still not ready to say Kevin Patullo is the guy. This was a step in the right direction, but this is not an issue that we can look at and say is 100% solved. This is not a situation, this play calling situation is not a situation that we can look at and say, oh, everything is good now. It's 100% now. Because it's not. Kevin Patullo still has a ways to go before we as Eagles fans, we as general football fans, can look at that situation and say, okay, Kevin Patullo has earned that job. Kevin Patullo is the guy for the Birds moving forward. He's still got to prove that. But looking at A.J. Brown is the best receiver in football. A.J. Brown is the best receiver in the NFL. On 6 targets, only 4 receptions, A.J. Brown had 121 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, if you look at that stat line, if you really know ball, you'll understand that is an insane stat line. Only 6 targets in all 4 quarters of the game. Only 6 targets and 4 catches. A.J. Brown still tallied 121 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. That is elite caliber production. If A.J. Brown could do what he did against the Vikings with only 6 targets and 4 catches, imagine what A.J. Brown would be able to do if he had more targets more consistently in this offense. Imagine the numbers A.J. Brown would be able to put up if he was consistently schemed open within this offense. A.J. Brown is the best receiver in football. Like, I look at A.J. Brown in comparison to the other receivers in the NFL. Like, there is nothing anyone else in the NFL can do or is doing right now that A.J. Brown has not done or is is incapable of. There is nothing these guys are doing that AJ Brown absolutely cannot do. I look at Jamar Chase, for example. If AJ Brown had Jamar Chase level targets, AJ Brown would clear Chase and Justin Jefferson in production. If AJ Brown had Chase level targets, he would clear Chase in production. If AJ Brown had Justin Jefferson level targets, he would clear Justin Jefferson in production. I look at Jamar Chase against the Steelers. Dominant game for Jamar Chase. 100%. That's a big reason why I picked him as Offensive Player of the Year this year. In that game against the Steelers, 161 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase had 23 targets. Jamar Chase had more than 3 times the amount of targets that AJ Brown had in the same week, and only had a 40-yard difference in production. With more than 3 times the targets, in the same week with more than 3 times the targets, against a worse defense, there was only a 40-yard difference between Chase and AJ Brown. Only a 40-yard difference. If AJ Brown had 18 targets, let alone more than 20, AJ Brown could have put up 180 receiving yards. 180 to 190 receiving yards easy. So with significantly less targets than Jamar Chase, AJ Brown still produced at the same level as Jamar Chase. He only had 40 yards less than Jamar Chase and had more touchdowns. AJ Brown is the best receiver in the NFL. If AJ Brown had Jamar Chase level targets, had Justin Jefferson level targets, AJ Brown, no one would come close to AJ Brown in the receiving yards category. Honestly, AJ Brown would probably widen the gap between himself and the pack in receiving touchdowns as well. AJ Brown is the best receiver in football, and I will live and die on that hill. 17 less targets than Jamar Chase. With 17 less targets than Jamar Chase, AJ Brown still had 1 more touchdown and only had 40 less yards in receptions. 17 less targets. AJ Brown still had 1 more tutty and only had 40 less yards than Chase through the air. Bro, that is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. That honestly just proves how good AJ Brown is as a receiver. The fact that he can produce to that level. The fact that he can produce at the caliber of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson with less than half of the targets, with less than half of the attention in the overall offensive scheme, that proves how good, how dominant, how unstoppable AJ Brown is as a receiver. 100%. And honestly, it does give me hope. Back to the play calling, the dominant performance from AJ Brown, the dominant performance from Jalen Hurts, dominant performance from Devontae Smith, it does give me more faith in the offense moving forward, because I do think the offense is only going to get better. The offense is only going to get better from this point. The offense had some things to figure out, had some pieces to connect. Those pieces are connected now. It's not 100%, it's still a work in progress, but progress is being made. And the offense is only going to, excel in that progress as the season progresses. Jalen Hurts said it himself. He said, we're not losing any more games. Jalen Hurts, it's clicked in his mind now. He knows there is not a single game that the Eagles will lose coming up. If you look at the Eagles' schedule for this year, there is not a single game that the Eagles will lose for the rest of the season. The Giants next week, That's a revenge game. Jalen Carter's back. Quinton Mitchell's back. We're gonna have Brandon Graham on the sideline, giving that boost to the defense. Jalen Hurts is locked in. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, and Devontae Smith are coming off of the game that they had last week, building off that momentum. This is going to be a totally different game, a revenge game. That's a W. Against the Packers, that's a W. Jordan Love and that Packers offense is not outproducing this Eagles offense, especially not against the way that defense is going to look. The Lions, Jalen Hurts over Jared Goff every day of the week. Offense looks good over there in Detroit, but when it comes down to it, Jalen Hurts is going to beat Jared Goff 10 times out of 10. Eagles against the Cowboys. Electric offense. Arguably the most explosive offense, at least in the passing game right now, with Dak Prescott and George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott obviously being an MVP candidate. No question, that defense is getting torched by this Eagles offense. Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland are getting torched by AJ and Devontae Smith all game long. That's a W. The Bears, that's a W. They look promising, but they're shaky. They're not at that level yet. Caleb Williams, he's not outplaying Jalen Hurts. That's a W. Chargers, Justin Herbert, shaky. Not outplaying Jalen Hurts. Justin Herbert is not nearly as good of a crunch time football player as Jalen Hurts is. That's a W. Raiders, one of the worst teams in the NFL. That's a W. Commanders, Jaden Daniels is banged up. Terry McLaurin is hurt. Who knows when we'll see Noah Brown again? Debo is banged up. That's a W. Bills, terrible defense. The Eagles offense is going to have a field day with that Bills defense. And Josh Allen versus Jalen Hurts, we know how that played out the last time these two faced off against each other. That's a dub for Jalen Hurts. That's a dub for the Eagles. Then we see the Commanders to end off the season. The Eagles, I would say the Commanders might win that game, but the way Tanner McKee looked this preseason, if Tanner McKee starts, because we're going to be sitting our starters at that point anyway. But the way Tanner McKee looked in the preseason, no question, he's outplaying that Commanders defense. That's a W. The Eagles aren't losing a game for the rest of the season. They're not losing a game. Jalen Hurts did not lie. The Eagles are not losing a game for the rest of the regular season. There is no question. And honestly, it starts with the passing game. The passing game is what is going to stretch the field for the run game to then improve as well. Because now once defenses have to start worrying more about the passing game, have to start worrying more about AJ and Devontae and Jahan and Dallas, it'll prevent defenses from stacking the box and will allow the offensive line to create more run lanes more consistently for Saquon Barkley, where we'll get to see a couple more home runs from him before the season ends. And honestly, real quick, touching on the defense, Jalen Carter showed that there is no defensive tackle in the game right now that is head and shoulders better than him, and that is more impactful than he is for his respective team. There's no defensive tackle right now in the NFL that can say that they are head and shoulders above or more impactful to their team than Jalen Carter, because of how different this defense looks when he is on the field and when he's not on the field. Jalen Carter, with like a week separated, a defense without Jalen Carter gets blown out by Jackson Dart, Cam Skattebo, and a New York Giants offense. A week later, with Jalen Carter against a better team, the defense gets a pick six. They force 2 overall interceptions. They get 2 sacks. They get 6 TFLs and 8 QB hits. Jalen Carter is the difference for this Eagles defense. And there isn't a defensive tackle in the NFL right now that can say they are head and shoulders better than Jalen Carter is right now. Cooper DeJean is the best dual DB in the NFL. He can play safety. He can play corner. There is no DB in the NFL, frankly, that can do what Cooper DeJean has shown capable of doing. He can cover anyone, and he can tackle anyone. Cooper DeJean is the best dual DB in the NFL because there's nothing he can't do. There's no one he can't cover, and there's no one he can't get on the ground. The fact that he was able to lock up Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the NFL, is crazy. The fact that Cooper DeJean can do what he did to Justin Jefferson in that moment to save a touchdown, possibly game-changing touchdown, it proves Cooper DeJean is an elite DB in the NFL already. Just as a year two guy, as a sophomore, Cooper DeJean is an elite DB. There is nothing Cooper DeJean cannot do. If Cooper DeJean can lock up Justin Jefferson, if he can shut down Jamar Chase, if he can get Derrick Henry on the ground, not giving up any yards, there is nothing that Cooper DeJean cannot do, and there is no DB in the NFL that can say they can do more than what Cooper DeJean is capable of doing. No DB in the NFL can say they can do what Cooper DeJean is able to do. But that's all we got for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms, and I will be back later on with more shameless takes.